Larry left his heart on the floor for his team, he was sent to the hospital where doctors had to drill a hole into the side of his face and insert a medical tool to pop his zygotic arch back out. If social media had been around with clear footage back in these days, this performance would probably be a lot more famous. We were shocked to see Westbrook standing on his own with a hole in his face. Imagine watching Larry Bird play an entire extra quarter while leading his team to the win. Number 3.
Before we get to number 3, let's get it. We back. And we got 4 crazy stories that prove Larry Bird is the toughest player in NBA history. So if you're new to the channel and you didn't know this, now you know. Your boy DtaeNoDinero just told you. Larry Bird was a basketball genius and one of the toughest basketball players that ever have played the game. So hit the like button, subscribe, and turn the notification bell on, that way you don't miss no more videos. But let's get to this video, y'all, because I don't want to talk y'all heads off. I know people hate long intros. I do too. I understand. But like button, silly.
We've all heard the stories about Kobe Bryant, and most of us have actually seen with our own eyes how incredibly tough the guy was, trying to play on a freshly sprained ankle to wheel the Lakers to the playoffs, winning the championship with a fractured finger. He's got a great case for being the toughest player in NBA history. But then there's Larry Bird, and many people don't know it, but he might have been equally as tough, if not tougher, than Kobe Bryant when it came to pain tolerance. Bird was such a warrior that he often didn't even like to let the team staff know he was hurt. That is until later in his career when his back had deteriorated to an unbearable point. And because Bird was such a warrior, today I want to tell you guys 4 crazy stories about Larry Bird's insane level of toughness. What's up, NBA fans? Dom2K on the mic, and you've probably seen the shots of Larry Bird torturing himself later in his career when his back was forcing him into retirement, but you might not know what allowed him to deal with that pain in the first place. It turns out Larry was dealing with physical ailments even before he entered the league. Before he'd ever played a game with the Celtics, he actually had his knuckle shattered by a baseball that put his professional career in jeopardy. But because he's Larry Bird and Larry Bird is from a different planet, he was able to put together a top 10 NBA career despite not ever having the same shooting touch before he shattered his knuckle. Wrap your mind around that for a second. Larry Bird accomplished everything he did in his career, and he said out of his own mouth that he never had the same feel for the basketball after the knuckle injury. But as it turns out, that's just an appetizer compared to what he'd endured throughout his career. Let's jump into it. Number 4. Hole in the face. I figured we'd start off with something crazy we've seen before. Remember when Russell Westbrook fell down after his free throw and got a hole kicked in his jaw? Yeah, that left a lot of us wondering if Westbrook was actually Android a human, because he got up, moved his mouth around a little bit, and finished up what was left of the game. Luckily for him, that was only about 1 second of game time. However, it turns out that 33 years earlier, Larry Bird actually had already accomplished this superhuman feat, and surprisingly, he did Westbrook one better. I originally thought there wasn't footage of this on YouTube, but I'm so thankful there was, because you need to witness how brutal this was. In a 1982 game against the Milwaukee Bucks, Larry Bird drove left to the basket and tried to bank in a routine jump shot. It clanked off the rim, Bird went up to rebound his own miss, and was violently elbowed by power forward Harvey Catchings. Where Westbrook's injury was an accident by his own teammate that didn't even look too bad initially, it's a bit difficult to look at this footage and say it wasn't on purpose, and you actually cringe a bit when you see how hard the shot was.
That looked bad.
The elbow practically knocked Bird out and left him lying on the floor for several minutes as he looked seriously injured. From what I can tell in the tape, the injury appeared to happen before the end of the third quarter, because Larry Bird went back to the locker room and came back out before the period had ended. In the fourth quarter, playing with what we now know was a fractured zygotic arch, Bird would score 8 more points, including a poster dunk, 2 assists, adding some defense and hustle plays, as he was even shoved out of bounds during one of the possessions. His efforts led the Celtics to a narrow win, as he finished with 16 points, meaning he scored half of them with a fractured arch in crunch time, and even though we can't see it on the grainy 80s footage, Bird's jaw was depressed inward the same way Westbrook's was. After Larry left his heart on the floor for his team, he was sent to the hospital where doctors had to drill a hole into the side of his face and insert a medical tool to pop his zygotic arch back out. If social media had been around with clear footage back in these days, this performance would probably be a lot more famous. We were shocked to see Westbrook standing on his own with a hole in his face. Imagine watching Larry Bird play an entire extra quarter while leading his team to the win. Number 3.
Before we get to number 3, drop some in the comments what y'all think about number 4. I don't know what more he got to tell us, but that right there alone is by far one of the craziest stories that I heard. having to go to the hospital and then get the doctor having to drill a hole into your face to do some sort of like magical stuff that they do in hospitals in order to fix you is insane. Shout out to Larry Bird for playing a whole quarter and withstanding whatever pain that he had to go through that whole fourth quarter while putting up 8 points and leading this team to another win. That is crazy. Shout out to Larry Bird, man. This is the reason why we be calling Larry Bird the GOAT, because, you know, you hear about these stories people do it in these days of today, the modern day, and the whole time Larry Bird had did it 33 years ago when it happened with Russell Westbrook. So now it's probably been about 37 years ago. So yeah, shout out to Larry Bird. Make sure y'all give a like for Larry Bird.
Just give me a beer. It's understandable that Larry dealt with injuries like back problems and broken bones in the face. Those things just tend to happen when you're crashing into the floor and whatnot. But when Larry Bird had a toe infection, it really seemed like somebody was just testing how much he could take before he finally sat out a game. In the year 1985, Bird reportedly had number 2, double vision. A lot of people can't even shoot when there's just one basket sitting still, so imagine trying to play in a professional game when you fractured your eye orbiter and you're seeing 2 baskets. Now the injury itself sounds pretty comparable to what Derrick Rose had not too long ago, the difference here being that Rose got hurt before the season and was able to get his problems to a manageable point before playing in a real game. Bird, however, would not be so lucky. In a 1988 game against the Cavaliers, Bird was on fire, having scored 13 points in the first quarter, but when he spun away from Craig Elo with a clear lane to the basket, Del Curry of all people would rotate and hit Bird with a violent elbow to the side of his face. Kind of ironic that before Del was raising the greatest shooter of all time, he was apparently trying to take out the best one of his generation. Anyways, Bird sustained a fractured eye orbiter that again kept him on the floor for minutes. He went on to the locker room for treatment, came back out like he had done 6 years earlier, only this time he would score 18 more points to put the finishing touches on a 31-point game that included 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 4 steals on 11 of 20 shooting.
Wow.
But the stats weren't even the most impressive part. According to Larry, he played the rest of this game with double vision, and as he described it, he saw 2 baskets for the rest of the game, leaving him to guess which one he had to shoot at. But that's not the best part either. Not only did he light Cleveland up, but we know double vision doesn't go away after one game. As we've already established, if there was any other option than to sit a game out, that's what Bird was going to do. He ended up playing 4 more games with goggles that I'm not even sure anybody really knew he wore, and in those games, he scored 36, 30, 28, and 34 points. In typical Larry Bird fashion, he shot a staggering 55% from the field with that. Violent elbow, fractured eye orbiter, goggles, elite scoring, hitting on over half of his field goal attempts. Again, he's Larry Bird, and Larry Bird is from another planet. Just to add some gore to the story, apparently after the Cleveland game where he initially broke the orbiter, he noticed his nose bleeding after the game. He went to blow it and his eye bulged out a bit. Just a typical day in the life of Larry Bird, I guess.
Hey man, before we move on, y'all, I did a lot of reactions to some Larry Bird videos, so if you don't know this, go to my channel, check out the playlist again. Like I told y'all before at the beginning of the video, not like I'm telling y'all to do it, but I really appreciate it if y'all do. If y'all new to the channel, check out the videos on my playlist, and you guys will see how many videos we got of Larry Bird on the channel, and you can catch up on everything that we already done watched. But just listening to this story alone is worse than the first story we heard where he had to get a hole drilled in his face. You mean to tell me Larry Bird wore goggles and nobody never told me? Come on, man. Come on, man. All the stuff y'all done taught me on this channel, and nobody never told me that Bird got elbowed in his eye so bad that he had to wear goggles, and I know it's true because they showed a picture of him wearing the goggles. Or did y'all know that? Drop some in the comments if y'all knew that or not, because I'm starting to think y'all didn't know that, because y'all would have been told me that. And out of all the videos that I done watched, this is the only video that ever has told me that. The only video that's ever told me that. That is crazy. He was averaging 30 points with goggles on because he couldn't see the rim, and basically he was seeing 2 rims and averaged 30 points. When they gotta add more checks to the list on why Larry Bird is the greatest of all time, I mean, it's just self-explanatory. It's just self-explanatory, man. Straight up. He's a basketball genius. He's the greatest of all time, and he's one of the best shooters. And he's just Larry Bird. Fly higher than a hawk. Whatever they said in that one slogan in our last video. If you didn't see that video, go check it out. It's going crazy too.
Number 1, Celtic Pride. You hear all this talk about Celtic Pride anytime we speak about the history, and Larry Bird contributed in big part to that as his career was wrapping up. Possibly the most famous scene from the ending of his career is the one we've all seen. Larry was diving for a loose ball, goes crashing to the floor as his head bangs against it violently, and he just lays there as if his body couldn't take it anymore. Truth be told, it really couldn't. Bird was dealing with insane back issues by this point in his career, and it was through sheer determination that he was even playing by this point. However, the story behind this scene is that not only was Bird's back locking up on him, but the shot he took to the head actually knocked him unconscious for a second and left him with a concussion that threatened to keep him out of the rest of an elimination Game 5 against the Pacers. By this point, Larry was 34 years old and had missed 22 games throughout the season, and his best days had been stripped from him by an ever-deteriorating back. He sat in the locker room debating whether to go back into the game as Boston had lost their edge without him, and most of the way through the third quarter, the advantage was with the Pacers. When Larry asked the doctor for advice, he said he should be done for the day, but by this point, we all know Larry just wasn't built like that. He was still breathing, so he went back into the game with the Celtics down by 3, while they were being cracked over the head by Chuck Persons, I might add. With Bird back in the game, Boston would go on a ridiculous 33-14 run and went on to win the game by 3 points, sending the Pacers home for the playoffs. Bird finished with 32 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists while shooting 63% from the field.
Wow.
But again, that's not the most shocking part of this story.
60%.
According to teammates like Robert Parrish, when Bird hit the floor, they weren't sure he was ever going to play again. Remember that this happened at the end of Bird's career, and after back surgeries and having to lay in a fiberglass brace for hours just to be well enough to play, some thought that the fall he took meant the end of his career. And it probably would have been if Larry Bird was from Earth, but instead he went out and put up one of the most memorable playoff performances of all time, the kind of performance that really makes you sad that his career was really cut short by injury. So there you have it. These were 4 crazy stories that prove Larry Bird was likely the toughest player of all time. The crazy part about it, after reading the book he wrote with Magic Johnson and researching a little bit, I could have easily told 10 or more. The truth that people don't really talk about in terms of Larry is that despite his amazing career, it was truly only a shell of what he could have been. As early as 1985, only 6 years into Larry Bird's career, he was already experiencing back issues that resulted from him doing concrete work around his house that he could have paid someone else to do. But that's just who Larry was, an incredibly hard worker that prided himself on being the same type of soldier his father was. Larry cherishes a story about his father when he came home one day from work and had a busted ankle. The next day, the ankle was so bad that Larry had to help him put the shoe on, and his father went right back to work. It was the kind of example that led Larry to play through the ridiculous pain he began to experience really only a short way into his career. Bird played a total of 13 of the most memorable seasons any NBA player could produce, but imagine one of our modern stars only lasting 13 years. LeBron is already on his 14th campaign, Durant is already on his 10th, but what if those guys only played to 13 though? That's just for perspective of what a flash Bird's career really was. And we're lucky that for that short amount of time, he had the high pain tolerance that he did, because if he was actually human and sat out those games that anybody else would have sat out, we would have likely seen even less of him. So in conclusion, I think Bird is proof that there is life outside of Earth, and we really aren't alone. Somewhere out there is the planet Larry Bird came from, where there's extraterrestrial life that apparently doesn't feel any type of pain. Shatter their face, knock them out, just give them a few minutes and they're right back on their feet ready to play. And if they're generous enough, maybe they're gonna send another one like Larry to Earth to play in the NBA in the future. But if that doesn't happen, I'm very happy that Larry Bird was a part of NBA history. So I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope you learned something. Leave your favorite Larry Bird story in the comment section because I'm pretty sure you guys have some. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications on my video. I'm Dom2K and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.
Hey, I appreciate you, Dom2K, man. No, like, for real. This video was very informative. Make me want to go make my own video. If y'all want to see me make videos like this, drop a like in the comment. Drop a like for the video and drop some in the comments as well. I do some research on Larry Bird and come back and give some more context behind some of these stories that he just dropped and told us, because I didn't know that Larry Bird had to wear goggles for that situation that happened where he got elbowed in his eye a second time. I wonder if that was the same season too. Like, if that was the same season, that would have made it even worse. It already just happened one time that season. So if it happened 2 times that season, that probably was the reason why it was so bad that time. But it was a very informative video. I really enjoyed it. I know you guys did too, so I know you guys are going to like the video. And if you're new to the channel, you're going to subscribe and you're going to turn your notification bells on. That way you don't miss no more of these crazy stories that we hear about Larry Bird. Or maybe we're going to go back and watch an old basketball game with Larry Bird. The last one that we did, was versus the Bulls, and Michael Larry Bird versus the Bulls, and Michael Jordan scored 63 points. That video did pretty good, but it could have done better. We could have got more likes up on that video. So, in the meantime, I just want to thank y'all for coming to the channel and hitting the like button, because a lot of people have been liking the videos. A lot of people have. And since you guys have been liking the videos, a lot of people have been coming back to the channel. They've been subscribing, and I finally almost hit my mark. I'm only about 7 subscribers away. So I really do appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much for being so loyal to the channel. And believe me, we're going to keep rooting on for Larry Bird, and we're going to keep the reactions coming on a daily basis. Y'all just keep coming back and turning your notifications on and be ready for some more, okay? But other than that, enjoy y'all weekend. Have a good day. Good night. Get some good sleep. And that's it. Peace. Let's get